So you just got your black belt. Let's talk about different phases of your career. And the way I wanted to do this talk was I'm gonna give you my part of like my view of that phase, and then I want you to hear your view. I know it's like two different perspectives. Like it's always like the coach, the professor, and the view as an athlete. Like it's there, like doing the work and like having all the emotions in the tournament. So let's go back to the beginning. Whenever like you were like 14 years old and you decided to come to US for the first time. What year was that?
That was 2015 when I moved, when I decided to come, but I came for the first time in 2014, just to visit. I stayed for like
that photo
2
that
weeks,
we have, your orange belt. That was 2014.
Yes, 14, yeah.
Penn Kids. You came from
Penn Kids, and then I moved here and I stayed for a couple months in 2015.
That's when you did the training at AOJ or no?
That's when I did the training at AOJ, yes. I actually stayed a few months in a city in California, like 3 hours away from here.
In 2015 or 14?
15. And then right when Penn Kids was over, then I came down to AOJ to spend a couple months training.
I remember like you fought that year, you fought Penn Kids, but you did, I don't remember if it was one class or a couple classes at AOJ. Like we always get a bunch of kids that come before Penn Kids, and I remember you being in the class and training. Like I don't remember how you train and stuff, but I remember you in the class. You trained the week before the competition or no?
No, so in 2014 when I came, I trained actually after the competition.
Oh, it was after the competition?
Yeah, it was after, because we were in Long Beach, and then we did the competition in Long Beach, and then I think the competition ended on like Sunday and our flight back home was like Tuesday. So on Monday we came, we just did one training session, and then I was flying home on Tuesday the next day.
And like, what do you feel like that made you decide to, at that point, like whenever you were going home with your dad, you wanted to move already, or no? Was something that like talking to him in Brazil after like you guys came up with the idea? Like how was it?
No, I think we came to visit, but really just to train. We never really, at that point, we didn't really think about moving it. I think because maybe I was too young. And then my dad just saw that maybe I was gonna have a hard time at that age,
To adapt,
moving from a different country and the language barrier and everything. So we did speak about things that we could do in the future. Like of course, learning a new language would be something that was important for my career. And my dad always spoke with me that he always wanted me to leave in the United States. So he always told my mom this and always told me, but we never really knew the exact year that I was going to come and leave. And even when I came for the first time to spend a couple months, we were not sure yet what was going to happen, the way how I was going to react. And that's why my dad even came with me at that point to spend some time with me and see how I was going to adapt. But I didn't really, when I first came to AOJ, it was just for training really. We didn't have an idea, or we just wanted to experience and see what it was like, because my whole life at that point I was just training in Brazil, so I had no idea how I was training here. And it was a great experience for me just to see. I think I saw many other people on the mat as well and outside of the mat that I looked up to, and it was good for me to kind of compare my jiu-jitsu to the level that I was competing in here. And I've always been competing since as a kid, but I was never really a full-time competitor.
Yeah, that was what my question for you. Like, how you, let's say if you are one of the instructors in the kids class now, like how you see your level when you first came to AOJ? Like, were you like an amazing young athlete or average? Like, what do you think? Like in your mind now, looking, saying like, I was good or was not very good. What do you think?
Oh, I just think I see that I've improved and dedicated quick because like I felt like I had a lot of rooms to improve, but I didn't think that now looking it back, for sure I wasn't like the best one in the room. Like it just even when I first moved here, I felt like I had a lot to work on and then catch up to pretty much all the competitors. And when I came here for the first time to actually spend a couple months, I don't remember having a lot of kids in the training. So I ended up moving to like adults class, and there was a lot of competitors, like blue belts, purple belts, and competing, brown belts as well. Back then, Professor Rafa was still competing. Yeah. So then was something that I could see the difference in the levels. And when I first came, I don't think I don't remember much, but like I remember that in training I wasn't like the best in training or like had the best techniques, but I've always wanted to learn, and I think I was always like smart with my decisions. I think not just me, but at that point my dad always helped me. He always kind of guided me to do the right thing. Or even in the first year when I came, I won, and in the second year I came by myself actually to fight the Pen Kids, and I lost. But I could see that I wasn't. It's like I didn't have the feeling like, oh, I really trained hard for this. Like it was just like more like experiencing the competition. And today, or not today, but all the other years after I moved here, because I trained so hard, I actually felt like that I deserved it to win because of all the work that I put in.
So just for me to understand it, for people to also understand, so you fought Pen Kids that year, you lost it, and then you lost or you won in 2015?
No, 14 I won, 15 I lost.
So you went back to Brazil, and then at that point you didn't have a lot of ideas of like how I'm gonna go there and stay full time at AOJ. Like you guys wanted to move to United States at some point, but was not like a final decision. What made you guys decide to just go there and try to stay a couple months?
We at that year when I lost Pen Kids was one of the years that I most competed in Brazil. Not knowing that I was gonna live here, but just competing because that's when I really felt like I wanted to be like a competitor. And I competed in many different places in Brazil. It was actually the year that I was traveling, because before I would just compete local tournaments. And I started competing a lot in São Paulo. I went to Rio one time, and then I competed one time in like a Brasilia, and just like was traveling a lot to compete and also train with different people. And was when when I was training and fighting just local tournaments, the gym that I used to train on, it wasn't really a big gym. So we never had someone in our gym that would win tournaments or would be like amazing or would go to Brazilian nationals and do good. It was always like the whole team a few of the team would go, and then they would lose first, second match and then come back, do the exact same thing again. But was never really looking to be like, oh, I was gonna go to win. Like they just always went just for fun and to compete. So then I started to compete more, and then I started to have more results in competitions, and my professor started to actually having like competition training, and more people started joining, and people started taking it very seriously. But I was still kind of like a little kid, so I would train with just like adults pretty much. And today I felt that at that point was kind of wrong, because I'm a coach today, so I have a different vision when it comes down to that. I think if you're a kid, you should really train with someone your size, and
especially if it's a high level training.
Yeah, not just because the person's gonna take it easy on you, or it's better to train with adults. I actually think it's worse. It's better to train with a kid. Sometimes a kid doesn't have as much technique, but they do have maybe they're more aggressive fighting. Maybe they're a little more. They fight harder than an actual adult that would maybe take it easy on you.
Yeah, so. I think that whenever you have two kids training, like you have the will battle, that it's super important to learn at a young age, where like they really need to fight to get the moves to work. And whenever the kid, like I didn't have kids as well, like to train with, and then I feel like that's why I improved it so much whenever I was a little bit older. Not when I was a little kid. I started when I was 12. I think I had to wait until I was 15 to really start improving my jiu-jitsu. Because before that, like people were just like playing jellyfish with me, and like I was like passing, mounting, taking the back, and there was no training. And the advantage that I see now is not only at AOJ, but like a lot of academies now, because the kids programs grew so much that the kids are actually training jiu-jitsu at a young age, at like 5, 6, 7 years old.
Yes.
And you learn having to fight for positions. I think it's super important, because even if the technical level is not very high, but it teaches you that things are not going to come easy, and you are going to have like to be persistent with your attacks. You're going to have to be persistent with your defense if you want to survive in the round. And I think this kind of skill is so valuable at a young age, more important than any technique that can be taught. And you only get that when you have a fair training, and you don't get that with an adult and kid training
pretty
together.
much that's what would happen. I would train with adults, and then they were just kind of like letting me do everything. But I was, in my gym, I always liked to watch matches and study, and my dad always did that too. I actually got that from him. Mm-hmm. And we always watched a bunch of people competing, watch your worlds. But we always try to study techniques and everything. But in my gym, everyone was like just heavy. So like the techniques that we worked at was a lot different. And then of course the size was a huge difference. And there was not really any kids to train. So I was training with adults and going to compete with kids. And I felt like there was a huge difference. Like I would have, of course, do a lot better in the gym because people were letting me do stuff. Yeah. And during the competition, I didn't have the same results, of course, because I didn't feel like I had the training that I need. Yeah. I competed a lot. Some competitions I won, some competitions I ended up losing it. I always was kind of like making to the podium, pretty much. So it wasn't I always was happy with whatever I made. So like if I made it to the second place, I was kind of happy with that. Just because I felt like that I didn't have the training, or that I didn't train as hard, or I was just going to compete. And whenever there was one specific tournament that I went to compete in São Paulo, it's like a Brazilian nationals from a different federation. And I remember at that point I trained very hard for that. I ended up having 5 matches, and I lost on the 5th one, and I didn't even make it to the podium. And like that was when my dad saw that the competition level was a lot different than what we expected from our gym. Because like was pretty much for the tournament I had prepared like I never done before. I've actually trained hard, and I had training partners that were like kind of like juveniles at that point. They were doing good in competition, so I was training hard. My professor dedicated a lot training with us, and then we went to the competition, and I was winning the first fight, then I won the second, then I won the third, then I won the fourth, and I didn't really have control about if I was semifinals or quarterfinals, but we thought we were doing good in the tournament based on the work that we did. And then when I lost the 5th match and didn't even make it to the podium, that was something that really upset me. Because like I remember that my dad was like 11 or 12 hours. He drove all the way from my city to São Paulo. And on the way back, he wasn't mad at me at that turn because he thought that I fought good, but I just felt that like I wasn't bringing anything home. Yeah, and like I felt upset with myself, and I thought that maybe there was something that I could work on, but I didn't have pretty much on my city. I would have to look outside, maybe have to travel to a different city and train there, and then that's when we started thinking about coming to AOJ.
So let's move forward, and I'm gonna give you my perspective whenever like I first met you, and what I remember from that first experience. I remember you being in the class. I don't remember how you did, if like you did good or bad in the round, like. But one thing that called my attention was whenever you came to talk to me, I remember like was after one of the classes, like your dad was kind of on the side. And I remember you approaching and telling me that you wanted to stay there, moved to US and start training full time, and you had the goal of becoming like a world champion and living from Jiu Jitsu. And in my mind, like, you're 14 years old, like, from Brazil. In my mind, it was like, oh, this kid's just like thinking like that. He's like, oh, his dad's not gonna let him do that. Like, it's crazy. Like, he's just saying that just to talk with me. But like, I remember like kind of like responding and saying, oh, that's cool and stuff. But like, as you kept talking, like, I saw that you were like very like you wanted to do that really bad. And one thing that was very important to me too, like, is that that young age, having the, I think having the attitude to go there and talk to an adult, like, especially someone that you respect or you look up to, and approaching the adult and giving the adult like a feedback or talking about your plans, it's like, it's very hard. And I think it's a skill that is not a lot of people that have that. And that was like the first thing that called my attention, and it was I was able to see your personality right there. And it was good for me to see too, because like your dad stayed on the side the whole time. Like, he was there like watching, but he gave you the opportunity to go there and talk to me. And I think that first contact of like you approaching and talking was like at the beginning to build a relationship that was important. And to me, like, whenever I look back, and I was like, oh, what called my attention in that kid? Because like, I don't remember you doing fantastic in training or like anything like this. We had like a great kids team. Like, the kids were all very good. And it was really hard for someone to go there and like just like smash everybody. So like, you're mixed in the training, like was training with everybody. I don't even remember how it was. But I think that approach was more mature than anybody that was in the kids class. Like, I remember that all the kids that were there training, they were basically kids. Like, their parents would, like, if they would have some problem or anything, their parents would approach and say something. And whenever like you came to me and you start talking to me, it was like, wow, like this kid is actually like talking like an adult, like he's mature. And I think that was my first impression. Like, I got the same like years after with Cole, and I told him that I was like, oh, like I know you're good in jiu-jitsu. Like, at that point, like, I knew him from competitions and stuff, but he did the same thing that you did without like knowing. Like, his dad was not even training. He trained the whole class when he did the trial class at AOJ. And after class, he just came to me and said like, oh, I really want to move here. Like, I look up to you guys, and my goal is to be a black belt world champion. And was almost like having flashbacks whenever like he was talking to me. I was like just thinking about the same situation that happened to you. And to me, like, this is like the part of the story that begins everything, because that was when I really got motivated to look to you in training in a different way. And like, I wanted to know, like, for you, like, how was it? Like, how was like to just go there and tell your plans? Like, what did you talk to your dad, or your dad told you like, you go there and talk to him? Like, I never heard like this part of the story. I know my part of the story, but like, how challenging was for you to do that, and like what expectations you had?
When I first came here, or not first came in, when I first decided to like try to stay a couple months here, I looking at from now, I think it wasn't really what I wanted. Like, it was pretty much like what my dad thought would be better for me, but like I never got to him like when I was living in Brazil and said like, I wanted to live in America. I just, whatever he said, I just kind of took as like a vacation trip, and when I was gonna go and train. And I've coming here, I actually thought that I was gonna just stay for a couple months and go back to Brazil, because we never, first, we're very like a tight family. So like I grew up very like with my dad around, with my mom. So having me moving like apart from my family to live in a different country, I've always thought that like for sure my mom wasn't gonna let that happen, just because we're very like small and tight family, and I never thought that she was gonna let that happen. So I think that was a huge barrier that she had to go through, letting like a son just go like out of country. And I think she really trusted what my dad was gonna do. And even to this day, she always told that everything that's been happening in my life, it's my dad always spoke about this a long time ago. But like we didn't believe him because it was like pretty much like big dreams and like big goals that he had for me. But it was hard coming from like my city.
Yeah.
We pretty much like my parents never let us have any type of struggle with like financial wise, or like my family always had a very strong structure. Like we never, no problem ever happened to our family or anything. So we were very, very strong when it came down to that. And I've never thought that was gonna be possible for me to just move here and spend pretty much time living by myself at that age. But looking at it, the kids that were in the class, like you said, and when I was 13 and 14, I felt like to the kids that I see today, I felt like I was doing much more. Like back in my city, like I was not just with training and everything, but I had to pretty much take myself to training, like, and was far away. It was
Because
like
your
30
parents were
minutes.
working the whole time.
Because my parents were working. My parents worked from 7 a.m. all the way to like 7 p.m.
Yeah.
With like a no break in between. So it's not that they, of course, if they had a chance, they would have taken me. But most of the times I would have to catch a bus and go by myself, or a lot of times I had to drop off my sister in school. And everything in my city is kind of far and has a lot of traffic in between. So you do have to kind of live the like adult life when it came down
be
to
responsible.
that. Yeah, I was very responsible as a kid because like I've experienced that. So when I came here, it was no different. Like when my dad thought was a good time for me to speak with you, he just said, go talk to him. He didn't like explain everything or try to have me telling something that he wanted to say. He kind of waited a couple months to see how I was gonna feel, if that's what I really wanted, and then I showed him that that's what I really want. I started to enjoy much more training, and then when it got to the right time, he came to me and he was like, I have to go back. I have to work. You know, your mom's there, your sister's there, so I have to go back, and pretty much you take it on from here. You either stay here or you can go back. He never forced me to stay here, but he always told me. I remember there's something that he told me like pretty much almost every day. I was, like I said, I wasn't like the best in training, but he always told me that I would have to outshine everyone just by like outworking. So I remember like I would do every session in the morning, and then I would go home, I would do a workout or go run, and I would come back at night and train. And I was living like a couple miles from the gym, and we didn't have a car, so sometimes I would walk and it would take like 40 minutes. Sometimes I would ride every day. Pretty much I would ride my bike. It was like winter, and the drill session started at like 6 a.m. So I would leave at like 5 a.m. And that's something that I don't think any kids were doing that at the time. So he always told me that that's what I had to show. He pretty much kept it very clear. He said, you're the smallest, you're not the best in class, but you have to at least show the will that you want to do this. And then everything's gonna fall in place. And that's what stuck with me, and that's what I kept doing it. But when you're doing it, you don't really keep a track of the time or everything. It just goes on. So when we stay here for 5-6 months, it was like short. It was like fast because I was just, my whole day I was busy trying to work on something that I was starting to like. He always spoke with me about the English and the importance, because he always knew also the business side of it. You know, in my city, he saw many examples of like people that were actually good but couldn't make it because they didn't know the business side. And because he's a businessman, he knew that the way for me to have a good life and, you know, make this sport a living for me, it would be teaching. And so he always put that in my mind too, that I was not just being an athlete. I have to be a great athlete, and I have to be a great teacher. Yeah. And I see in the sport today, I see that he always told me, he said to be a great athlete, it's It's not hard. You just, of course, you have to train hard and dedicate a lot of stuff, but to be special, you have to be able to do both. He always gave me a good example of you guys being a world champion and then having a successful academy. And like where I see that you guys come from, it's hard to it's like a big stage, like it's a big step. It's like you're like down here, you're waning, you're living like an athlete life, and all of a sudden you have to make a big jump to the point where you're starting to make a live out of it. You have your goals to maybe one day buy your house and make money and go teach seminars. So I had to be smart, and I still have a goal where that's I think is my dad's final goal, and finally we're starting to speak more about this because I recently got promoted. So we're starting to talk about more that whenever I'm working after I stop competing and then I'm fully dedicated to teaching and to the academy, he wants to somehow help. That's what he wants to do. He
wants to be a part of it.
Yeah, he wants to move pretty much from Brazil, leave what he did there already, move completely here and just help me and have my mom and my sister working with me, and just have that family environment. It was always something that he wanted to do, and it's something that now we're starting to speak even more about it.
Yeah, because
we're starting
more
to
real.
plan a lot with having my sister somehow working on like being a manager, because like my mom really thinks that she's got that side, because me and my sister, we always been a lot around my parents, but we're always around when they were working. So they would take us to the work, to their business, and they would start working, and we'd just be there in the middle of
you guys
everything.
got a lot of like the discipline and like the work ethic.
I think the work ethic, yes. I think it's crazy. Like I see it today being working at the gym and having to work and have the times that I have to show up. My dad really taught me a lot with that. I remember he used to start working at 7 a.m. That's when he would open the doors. But every day at 6 a.m. he would show up and like start sweeping the floors. And it was, well, not hard for me to see that, but I've never understood, because he was pretty much the boss of the company. And he was doing a work to pretty much, I never understood why he was doing that, because he could have just told anybody to do it. But he always told me, like years later, he told me that he wanted not just to tell people what to do, but to set a good example. So I remember a lot of people would go and they didn't have to be there at 6 a.m., but they started to go there at 6 a.m. to help him.
Yeah, because
and a lot of guys also did not do that. So that really started showing to him who really wanted to help the company, and because they didn't have to be there, and he also didn't have to be there. And a lot of times he didn't have to do that work, but he just wanted to show a good example. He was always a guy that is very selfless. He really wants to help if he feels that you're a good person and he likes your character. So that's what I think I got from him a lot. And it's never, if you ask my parents if they sat down with me and talked about it, and they never did. They always just kind of were the type of parents that just taught a good example. They never told me to be this way. They would do it, and I think I was smart enough to see it and take the good out of it. And then of course there was a lot of things that happened with them that I kind of saw that I could see that was wrong, and I would see their frustration with some things and things that they would work on. And whatever I am today, I think it's because of they did a good job with me, raising me.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, like whenever you came, like you already came with like a lot of personality, and I was only able to see that when we first start talking about you moving here. Before that, you're just another kid in the class, and I think that was where like I opened my eyes, and I was like, oh, this kid, it's special and has something that it's a skill that other kids this age they don't have. So like your dad went back to Brazil, like after you talked to me, and like I told you that I would like do whatever I could to support you and like to help you. I remember talking to your dad too, he came to me after and said that it was hard for him to like leave you here, but he really believed in your work and my work, and he knew good things would happen. And I remember like multiple times of like we got really close after that, because like you basically didn't have your parents here. It was very different than all the other kids, because all the other kids, like, they would have a problem or something would come up and they would go straight to their parents, which is normal. Like, yeah. But the fact that you didn't have your parents here allowed you to have I think like a very good communication with me, because I was basically the person that was helping you all the time. I remember like multiple times, like whenever you guys rented a room in I remember like in an old lady's house, and you were living there. And I remember like sometimes going there, picking you up and taking you to training. Sometimes like I remember you riding the bike, and like when it was winter, you getting to the academy, and it was super cold, and I asking you, like, you had like a lot of jackets on, and like asking you like, you feel fine? He was like, you're saying like, oh, it's really cold today. So like I have a lot of like flashes of like that time, and I think that was really important. Like we built a lot of our relationship and our trust above everything, like in that time, because I think like I tell you all the time, like you became like a little brother to me, because you were always asking for help or like asking for advice and like talking to me, coming to me all the time. And like we developed that relationship that made it like much easier for us to understand each other and to set a goal together to move it forward and like and build your career. After that, you got promoted to blue, juvenile. We got you a fight in Moscow, right? Yeah, like right after your dad left, right? Or was like when he was here? He was still here, yeah. So you won that fight. I think that was a good way to like start like competing for like AOJ and stuff. And when you went to the first year as juvenile, you were training here for almost a year already. It was like a couple months, and you were having a lot of great results. But one thing that I tell a lot of the competitors today, I'll tell a lot of people that one thing that I think you had different than the other juveniles that were there at the same time as you in that group, like whenever like that time was when we decided to do the program and we brought people from Brazil. You were doing your first year as a juvenile. And at some point in the career, especially like in the lower belts, I think like you face a lot of adversity. Normally it happens in the lower belts, and people have like tough divisions, and like they learn how to get through that process of getting nervous, overcoming, winning, losing and stuff. And for some people it happens early, and some people it never happens in the lower belts, which is bad in my opinion. And then they face it in the first couple years as a black belt. Then you see the guy that wins everything in the color belts losing a lot in the black belt for a long time, until he gets that experience and start getting that rhythm to win. When I look back, and at that point I already knew, I saw that, and this is the next story that I want to talk about. You had a very tough juvenile division. Like the year that you were born, like there were born a lot of good kids that started in Jiu Jitsu. So a lot of the kids that are now winning in the brown belt or young champions in the black belt were with you in the juvenile. And that was challenging for sure, because like you want to go in the first year as a juvenile and have the best experience as possible, win everything and build that confidence. But like for you did that, you won a lot, but you have a lot of tough matches, and I think that built you a lot in the first and second year, like in the juvenile years. I remember one scene that I can't forget. That was something that moved me a lot whenever like it happened. Was like we had a bunch of like great kids, and like you were working a lot in the training and doing like extra work and talking to me a lot. And whenever the brackets came out, like all the kids, they have like easy division compared to their level, of course, like it was easy. And you had a very high level, but your bracket was hard. And I remember like you talking to me and saying like, man, like my bracket is the only one that it's hard. Like everyone else, like I know they're gonna win. And that just puts so much more pressure on you because like you knew all your teammates would win. And for you, like having like a tough bracket. And I remember like you had, was in the second year as a juvenile and you had Andy in the same bracket as you. And you were both winning everything before you face each other. And you didn't compete Europeans. I think he won Europeans, right?
Yeah.
And I remember that. And you were winning a lot of the competitions here. And you both went to the finals. You're beating him all the way up to the last couple seconds, and you end up getting swept and lost in the last couple seconds of the division. And then you're going to fight the open class, but the open class would be harder than your division because had Andy in the open class and had like a lot of kids. It had Mayhan in the open class and a lot of the other kids that were good. Yeah, had Josh Cisneros that like just won in the black belt. Like, so I remember that after like all the other kids won, we knew they would win. Like that was, and then you lost the finals. I remember walking like in the pyramid, and I found you sitting on the floor, and then you're crying by yourself. And then I went there. I was like, I know you're upset, but you have two options. One, you keep thinking about what happened, and you're gonna fight really bad in the open class and lose, or you just focus on what you have in front of you now and go there and give your best, and you can basically like beat the person that was able to beat you. And I remember saying that and basically like leaving, because like there's not much that you can say after the person loses and they're like they're heartbroken. Like it doesn't matter. Like for me, like as a competitor, like I never liked the person to go there and say, you're still the best, or you're the best in my opinion. Like, because like it doesn't really matter. Like you know the person is there for you and like he wants you to win. But in the end of the day, it's about results, and like you won, you lost. And I think it's very important to not be emotional, especially as a coach, and try to give the right direction. And I remember going there and saying, look, like if you want to be crying and keep crying, like you're gonna just destroy your mind for what you have next in front of you. If you change and you focus on what you have to do, you have the chance to win. And I remember the brackets came out, and I looked online the bracket, and then you had like a very hard like way to the finals. I remember like you had Mayhan that was like basically the other tough kid that won in the division below yours. And then I was like, man, like no, like it's not just hard, no, it's very hard.
Yeah.
And then you went there, you end up like beating Mayhan, and then you beat Andy in the finals of the open class. And I think that tournament was a breakthrough for you. You went, in my eyes, you went from a hard worker, average kid to someone that had a lot of potential to be a world champion, because like you showed like a skill that was important, like have that emotional control and being able to overcome the adversity and deal with your feelings. I remember like this story, like whenever like I think about all the tournaments that you fought, there's a story like it shines really bright to me, because in my opinion it was very important for you. And talk about like how you felt in that situation, that tournament. Like
I think in the blue belt I didn't really, even in the first year I remember like I made a huge mistake. Like I won a division and I ended up like losing the open class, but what it made me upset was like the way how I dealt with after the loss. Like I still, like in the end of the day, I won my division and I did what I had to do, but then I ended up losing the open class, and it was not because I won or because I lost, but just the way how I dealt with people that were around me, I thought was a huge mistake that I did. And I just held that with me for like the longest time. Like I knew that I had to fix. Even I spoke with my dad, and I knew that we had that I couldn't be like that. And like I don't know why I was acting that way. I think it was because probably it was the first loss that I actually had. Because in the first year as a juvenile, like I had a great run through all the competition, and then I ended up losing that. And then I ended up finishing the year really good. And then the second year, when that happened, I lost my division. And I think throughout the whole first and second year was a lot of hype behind pretty much me, because like you guys had I was pretty much like I am your guys' student, so everyone was putting a lot of hype because of you guys, and knowing that you guys, a lot of world champions train in the gym, and you guys are world champions, so like they were saying, like every article was posting that was the next upcomer and stuff. And the rivalry with like Andy at that at that year was something that looking at it now, it's something that's why I improved them a lot, because like I had that competition like between me and him. Like he would win one, and then I would win the second one. Then he won pretty much the outside tournaments, and I won here. So he was fighting Europeans, he was fighting in Japan, and I was winning just Pan Ams and all the local tournaments here. And when we were in the same bracket, people kind of knew that like we were gonna make it to the finals and what's gonna happen. And I think that was a lot of pressure on me, or maybe I put that pressure on myself, and which I shouldn't have done it. And when after I lost and I went to the open class, I didn't feel like I had any pressure on. I was upset, and I knew it was gonna be hard, a lot tougher than my division, but I don't remember feeling like a lot of pressure because of all the hype that was behind me. It was just, I kind of forgot it. For some reason, like when I lost it, I just felt that I just threw everything away. It was just like all that people have been saying, like it's just gone. Yeah. And then I think I have a great performance in that open class. And from that on, I think I really got confidence on what I could do even more. Like when you're juvenile, it's like you're doing good, but then the adult division feels so far. Like it feels like you have to improve a lot more. And it does. You do have to do that. But you have, for somehow, like you said, it's like you gotta break through to pretty much like know yourself better. Yeah. That's when I got to know that I never believed in myself that much. Where like, oh, I can do this. I can win. When I started to train with you guys, I started to get more confident, because I would see a lot of people in the same room with me winning tournaments and doing great in the tournaments. And when you guys started the program where you guys brought people from Brazil, was something that was good for me too. It was a good way for me to improve, because everyone that I was training with, they had good results. Too, yeah. And I was training good against them. So that built a lot of my confidence with pretty much everyone and every competition that I was gonna compete. And it was something that when you're facing it, like hard brackets, every competition, and you always have someone tough, and it feels like, maybe it was easier for everybody else, but it was like harder for me. At that moment, nobody likes that. But I think looking at now, I would not change. Yeah, I think it made me a lot better for the next belts, and just for in general, and it taught me first how I should deal with the people around me, and how I could achieve things that if I put in the work, and if I'm doing the right things, how I could achieve that. And another thing too, that you taught me, that it's not just everything that you do on the mat, but just everything that you do off the mat as well. It really reflects. I think I started doing a lot more right things. Not just, I remember I was dating Sophia back then, and looking at now, I didn't think I was the best for her at that time. And of course, like I was a kid still, and like we were both kids, but it might sound crazy, but that really affected my training, I think. just because I wasn't 100% focused. Once we became like strong with each other, and then I was more focused on what I had to do for the future, we still have like a lot of plans that I want to do, and you know, with our personal life and on the mats as well. And I think that just put an extra like boost in my confidence and what I have to do and to work. Sometimes I would be tired and I had no motivation to do anything. Now I feel like she added a lot of that in my life. Just knowing that like I have to do what I have to do in order to have what I want in the future, or on the mats and off the mats. So adding those goals in my personal life was something that really helped me throughout my career and doing what I'm doing today. So that tournament, it was important for me. And I remember people still ask me, I think it's this a very common question, is like, and I was gonna ask you too, people ask me all the time like, oh, was there ever a point that you thought about quitting or that you didn't want to do anymore? And I remember when my dad had just left to Brazil and I was training here, that was one particular morning that I went to the gym, and it was like I left my home at like 5 a.m. to get there like 5:40 and start training at 6. And I remember when I got there, my hands were completely froze. It just felt like it was the coldest year. And I remember thinking that like, man, like, do I really like have to go through this? Like, and I was young too. I was like 15. I was like, man, I'm 15. Like, by the time I get to 20, or by the time I become black belt, I'm gonna be so burned out. And I have to go through this. Was something that I never had to go through when I was around my parents or when I was in my city. So that was something that really made me think like, do I really want this? Is like, am I sure what I'm doing here? Like, my dad had just left, maybe like a month before that. And then that happened to me. And I remember my teammates, Professor Guru, he went and he bought me gloves. So I could come back and continue to drill with him, because he was my drilling partner. And then with that glove, I felt like, man, now that he bought me this, I cannot let him down. Like, he bought me for a reason, so I can continue to go. Because for sure, if he didn't do that, I don't think I would show up at that particular time. I would just maybe switch to a different time and come out like later. But like, because he did that for me, I felt like I had to prove something for him. And then put a lot of like the work ethic that I had on me, and then plus this little motivation that ended up happening throughout my career, it just kind of pushed me to do better.
Yeah, I think like one thing that you talked about that it's important, and a lot of people don't notice. It's like, I think like becoming good. I think in anything, it's a balance in between your work and your personal life. And whenever like you don't have that balance, you don't have good results. You have like a huge struggle, and you miss components that are essential. And I think like you said, like with me giving you advices and like you building yourself, like you were always coachable. That was important too. Like I remember, like now that you were talking about, like I remember that scene whenever you lost like the open class in the juvenile one. Like I tried to talk to you and you got upset, and then you ran away. Like you didn't let me talk to you. Like you're super like upset. And then I remember telling you like we were going home, and then you were going with somebody else. I said, no, you go with me in my car. And then like I remember like in the car, I told you like, look, like, I'm on your side, like I'm like part of this work with you, like your loss, it's my loss too. And if you're not able to communicate with me, you're not able to talk to me when something bad happens like this, or like when you're disappointed, like it'll be hard for us like to trust each other. And I remember like you apologizing, and that never happened again after that. And this kind of experience like build you up, make you more mature, because I went through multiple times with that, like people like losing and getting super upset or frustrated at the moment, and then they pretty much reject like anybody that tries to talk to them. And one thing that I always tell you, like you develop that through the years, is your emotional control whenever something bad happens. Like it happened after like a couple times, and I was always able to talk to you and hear what you're feeling and give you the feedback, and that would like make you feel more comfortable somehow. And that was also really important. Like, another thing that you mentioned that I think it's really important too is like the fact that you eliminate a lot of the distractions that you had in the beginning at a young age. And whenever you were like 15, 16, there's like a lot of like kid stuff or teenager stuff going on. And by having like a girlfriend or somebody that you trusted and you wanted to be with, and like knowing that that person somehow supports you and is with you in the good moments and bad moments, I think that helps a lot too. Whenever like you go through life, like you try to collect as much good experience, learn from the bad experience, and try to bring people that are good to you close and keep them during your whole life. So I think like you do a very good job with that. Like you are always attracting good people to your life, and you're always keeping them because you recognize that they somehow, in some like way, they are beneficial to you, and like you are also beneficial to them. Let's talk about the first year in the adults now. So adult division is like tricky because whenever you come from juvenile, you already have like a high level normally, and there's always a huge expectation on where you're gonna go. Like if you're gonna fight like a purple belt, if you're gonna fight in the blue belt. And to me, like you had the level to be in the purple belt, like even brown belt at that time already. But what's also like a phase of like a lot of discovery for me as a coach, because like you guys were the first group that I had in the juvenile division that was like strong like that, and like was that were going to be black belt world champions at some point. So like I was always very careful with the decisions that I made, because I know how important it is to like whenever you're building someone up. And for me, like I remember the thoughts that I had was like, man, like this kid had such a hard time like in the juvenile. You're winning, like you won worlds and like Pan Ams like in juvenile 1, juvenile 2. But I think like the fact that you had to go through like hard brackets and stuff, like in my mind was like, I'm gonna give him a break from like hard brackets, and I'm gonna put him in a division where he is higher level than the opponents, so he can show his jiu-jitsu more. It's really hard. Like what people don't understand is that as an athlete, you have so much to do, because it's not going there in the win. You have to perform. You need to go there and show good jiu-jitsu. If you want to become a star, it's all about performing. People, they don't care if you win, but you don't show good jiu-jitsu. Like you're gonna be just one more person that collect the gold medal. They expect you that you go there, you win against tough opponents, and you pretty much show beautiful jiu-jitsu. So for me, like, I know that you had the potential to do that. I knew that already. And for me, it was important that you went through a phase where the fights were easier, so you could actually perform your jiu-jitsu, show your techniques, show your skills. And it's hard to do that in a tough match where there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of expectation, especially when you're that young. So I remember thinking, like, I was like, man, do I promote him to purple and keep him with that group? Or I slow him down a little bit and then I keep him in the blue belt, make him compete division open class to have more matches and give him the chance to show his jiu-jitsu. And I kept you in the blue belt, and I think it was a great decision, because that's when I think people really start talking about you. I think like that built a lot of hype first, because people were saying that I was sandbagging. Mm-hmm. And for me, like, I don't see that as sandbagging. I think like whenever you were competing at Worlds, you were there to win, and like any person that is in the bracket, like a lot of the people that were there, they were juveniles too with you, and they kept their blue belt. But for me, it was important that you had that shot in that easier division, and it was part of building your career and building your name, and was always well thought. And I would not change a thing, even today, looking back, because I saw a lot of the juveniles that got promoted straight to purple struggling in their first year as a purple belt. And then kids like Andy lost in that year. And then what happened? Like he struggled in the purple belt, and then he started winning again in the brown belt. And that didn't happen to you because I did like a good like phasing with you. You understand? So like I think it was better planned. And a lot of the people that did that, like they were able to win. Like I think Roberto won in the purple belt, but then in the brown belt he struggled, right?
Yeah.
So like I think like that's why it's important to have a good connection with the athlete and understand what their needs is, because you try to give like them the best like way to the black belt and build good memories, good experience. So your juvenile was really tough. I was like, oh, now he needs 6 months like to show his jiu-jitsu and show how good he is. And that 6 months in the blue belt adult, I remember like you were like pretty much like every competition, people were talking about you, like the media was talking about you, and that just confirmed that my decision was the right one, because a lot of the people that were with you in the juvenile were losing and struggling, and I saw you outshining everyone in the media, and that was important for me. That made me feel good about my decision. I promoted you on the podium. You won double gold at Worlds. I promoted you on the podium, and then I think after that, like you just became a different person. Like looking after your purple belt, like you just pretty much like destroyed like every opponent in your division. Like everything like ran like amazing. We're gonna talk about like what happened at Worlds, but like I think that doesn't even like matter looking back, because like your evolution was like so fast after the purple belt that when I tied the purple belt on you, it was almost like tying the black belt, like you're ready to like win in the black belt. And that year you won Europeans, you won Pan Ams, and then in the finals of Worlds was like when you got hurt and then went to referee decision. Mm-hmm. And then you end up losing the referee decision at Worlds against Janse, and you beat Janse like 2 times before that year. So in my mind, like of course was an upset moment, because like you don't want it to happen. Like I knew you were going to win everything, and like I knew you had the level to be winning everything. The moment was upsetting. The injury was something that devastating, like for us, because like would stop you, and we didn't know for how long. But like the loss itself was not something that bothered me, because I was like, he's better than this kid.
Yeah.
He beat this kid 2 times before, like passing the guard, like outshining the kid in like every single way on the mat. So like whenever I look, even at that time, whenever I was analyzing the match and like your run through that tournament, was more like, man, like unfortunately that situation happened, but he's ready for the brown belt, and I was like, it's just a matter of getting him back on the mat for me to promote. And I wanted you to, I know like you spoke about it a couple times before, and like of course it's a moment that you learned a lot, and I learned a lot about you too, because like having an injury and having to deal with that and come back was something that never happened to me as an athlete, and never happened to anybody that I was coaching at that point. So I didn't know what to say, what to do. I learned a lot from you in that stage. And I said that in interviews before, I think that was important for me too, to see who you really are, because before that you never had any kind of like problem, or like something that a loss is not even a problem, like in my opinion. Like a loss is something that happens like all the time in like many different areas of life, and you need to learn how to deal with that and overcome. You didn't come from like any poor like background where you're struggling, or like you didn't have your dad or your mom, like your life was pretty much all well planned and like was all going good up to that point where like, okay, like now you got hurt, and what you do now? How about if you get hurt and you have to stay a year out of the competitions? How about if you get hurt, you stay a year out of competitions and everyone passed your level and you're not able to come back at the same level? So like there was a lot going on there. And I remember like when that happened, we going to the hospital, and you were like devastated because like, of course we never like expect that to happen. But like you're able to talk to me, and that was important. That was like a lesson that you got in the juvenile. Like we were talking the whole time, like you were like upset, like crying, controlling, but like talking to me. And then that made me feel more comfortable, and that made me feel that we were doing a good job too. I wanted you to talk a little bit about your experience in the purple belt.
I think the blue belt, I had a great year. It was well planned. Like I don't think we ever really looked at that. We always kind of like just look forward towards our next goals, but it's something that's it's important for me to look back and just really think that the preparation that I had done it for pretty much the black belt, it was something that we did it correct, and all the experience that we could have collected from the lower belts and everything that we could have went through, I think we went through pretty much everything, the highest of the highest, and then also like the lowest, which it was like, I think like my injury was something that it was really like testing me, and that's how I looked at it. I looked at it more as a test of like how bad I wanted. And I think because of the year was being so good to me, or like I was having such a great results, I don't think it really affect me how I think people thought it would affect me. I think I won Europeans, then I won Pan Ams, and I won World Pro, and I was just like competing in local tournaments as well, and I was doing great in the local tournaments. And at Worlds, I went in pretty much with the same mindset I went in for all the other tournaments. I was confident in what I've trained for. I knew that division was tough, but I knew that my level was higher, and I've competed with pretty much all the other guys from that division. And I was having a good run through like the semifinals, quarterfinals. I felt good doing that, and by that happening, it just feels like me looking at it. It just feels like it happens like everything in slow motion after that. Everything that happened, like my injury and like just that way of like going through the hospital and have all the doctors and stuff. I remember like feeling like I just wanted to be over, and was like everything happened in slow motion. And maybe it is for maybe just like your mind just makes it you feel like that, so you can experience every bit out of it. And going back home, and like after we went to the hospital and then going back home, at that point I didn't really know what happened to me. I knew I was hurt because I couldn't walk, but I didn't know what was going on, how bad I had really injured myself, and that's what was hard for me. I think just that first night after, not knowing what I was gonna do or for how long I was gonna be out, or I just really knew that for me to feel this type of pain is because there's something wrong, and it's not just gonna be easy to just deal with it. And after like a couple days, I went and I got like MRI, and then I saw how serious it was. And all I've thought about it was that I remember like my mom telling me about this. Like I remember I used to tell her like, hey, I don't know, like it was something serious. Like I don't know, nothing like this was like ever happened to me. And I remember her telling me is like you shouldn't really think that this is a problem. Like there's people with real problems. Mm-hmm. And she was like, it's just an adversity that you gotta overcome, but like it's not a problem. And I remember her getting actually like mad at me because at first I thought that was a problem for me. I was like, man, why do I have to go through this problem? What did I do wrong? And this whole year, I've been doing everything so great. And I was carrying myself good throughout all the tournaments. And having my mom telling me that, it was something that like I've expected her from like being a parent to. I've always thought that she would be just like, hey, like
Trying to comfort you.
trying to comfort me and trying to have me feel good and build back my confidence and everything. But when she told me that was something that like, man, like she trusts me and she pretty much cleared that type of like thinking that I had that was a big problem. Mm-hmm. And then I started thinking about that whole injury and that whole scenario not as a problem anymore. It was just something that I had to go through to be what I am today. Mm-hmm. I've always tried to look towards the future. Like, I'm going through this today, so tomorrow I'm a better person, I'm a more experienced person. And that's how I looked at it. I knew that we always spoke about every situation, every phase that we went through, like every belt. And I actually knew that the next year we spoke about me coming in as a brown belt. And I knew it was gonna be a tough division. It was gonna get closer to the black belt. But it was something that when I was not being able to train, that's what it really motivated me. And I actually knew, and I got so much more experience on that whole tournament. I don't know how I got this, but just like going to the brown belt and going like even the training and the coming back training, I think like I really became a professional at that time. Before I was doing Jiu Jitsu and I was competing, I was having great results, but the areas of my life that I could fix, I fixed after the injury, where I really became professional, like with my schedule, with my work, with my training. Of course, a lot more because I had to do a lot more to go
like
back.
Preventing injuries too.
Preventing injuries, and I had great people around me that helped me. They got a good facility for me to train and recover, and actually getting back from the injury, getting back to the mats, it was something really natural for me. I think a lot of people, they always ask me if I ever hesitate or if I ever had a hard time coming back to the mats, but it was something that was very, very natural because it felt like I was always on the mats. Like the time that I was off the mats, it never felt like I was really completely off. You just felt that.
But I think you never did that. That's why, because like I remember like in the first week that you were injured, that you're already on in the academy, like by the side of the mat, like sitting and watching the class. Like you never stayed out, and I think that's where people make mistakes. I think the power of like being present and watching and experience and living it, like it's so important. And if you cannot participate and do the drills and do the class, your presence in the environment will make you learn somehow and will make you improve. And I think you did a great job with that. Like in the first, like that's the importance of like not having distraction and making it your work and your career, your lifestyle. You're doing what you were supposed to do. Like you're there every day. You're like watching everyone, and you could not be on the mat, but you were there by the side, and like you were growing. Like I think like you were just first expanding your vision, and you were also like learning a lot about yourself by just being there and watching and being patient with yourself. And another thing that is important to me is like the power of like having a team behind you and have structure behind you. And everything comes with right decisions along the career. Like whenever you were a kid and you made the right decision to join a team that was professional and had the structure that you needed to accomplish your goals and had the right people to support you, that kind of decision that you made at 15 years old reflect when you most needed that in the purple belt division and afterwards. So a lot of people will struggle much more for sure because they don't have a structure, they don't have people behind them supporting and the right people to push them up. And that's why it's so important. That's why like I always told you like the the decisions that you make, they will reflect like what's gonna happen to you. So everything that you do that it's good will reflect in a good way. Everything that you do that is bad will somehow also reflect in a bad way. Sometimes it doesn't mean that you're gonna do something bad and you're gonna lose the tournament. Maybe you're gonna win the tournament, but that bad thing will chase you at some point of your life and will carry on. And I think that's what's important for people to understand. A lot of people think like how you deal with injuries, like this is the most common questions whenever I go to seminars and people are completely lost where, oh, I hurt my knee, what do I do? Do I train? Like, I don't know if you train or you don't train. I think it's important to have structure behind it if your goal is to be a champion, if your goal is to be the best, you need to have the best people behind you and guiding you throughout your career. And I think along the way you met a lot of great people inside of AOJ, and that helped you a lot to overcome this. So I don't think I think you did a fantastic job for sure. Like your personality really showed up there, and your parents like helping, your dad came here and helped you a lot. That was super special, something that motivated me a lot as a father to be able to do the same thing and experience like things like that and be supportive to my kids. But there was so many people that were involved in helping you. When you stop to think and name, like it's impossible to name everyone, because I think like the work that you did and the personality that you have, the way you built your character inside of the academy and who you are inside of the academy, just I think just made people want to be a part of that recovery process, and they knew would be successful.
I think like that's why I've always actually saw in documentaries and like I've seen always people talk about it, about the importance of the character, but I never really understood. Like if you hear people say, "Oh, you gotta have a good character," but what does it mean? Like, do I have to be nice to people? Do I have to, I think just meeting, like when I'm in a big facility like AOJ, for example, you meet new people every day. You meet different people every day. You meet just like regular people. You meet doctors there. You meet just that's what it's fun about Jiu-Jitsu, because you get to meet so many different people from so many different areas, and just meeting them, it's one thing, but I think your character, it really lives image from you to them. So yeah. I think of every day, the way how I treated people and the way how I helped people and how they helped me was always because I either left a good image about myself and my character actually shined at that moment, or they did it for me. So I think the reason why we have such a strong relationship, I think it's because your character and my character, we both were able to pretty much understand each other, and it's kind of like it's a match. It's almost like it was meant to happen. Like it was meant for this to happen, for me to meet you, because we're so alike. And even when I was younger, I felt the way how we're always talking, had the conversation, it became like you're teaching me how to be an adult, and I was trying to pretty much, I always looked up to you in every aspect, on the mats and off the mat, so I was trying to be like you, and the way how I carry myself. So it really, all those people that helped me, I think it was just because of all the work that I've always done with just my character and my personality with everyone, and I was very happy with everything that was going on, and everybody pretty much stuck with me, but just by having people telling me good things every day, to have people helping me training, to have people taking me to the rehab, to take me to the doctors, to watch me, and just everyone play a really strong role at that particular time, and it was something that was very important for me to pretty much reunite everyone. We are a team, and the team that we are now, I think that whole situation, it played a lot on it. And one thing that I give credits for is to my dad bringing everyone together. It was a moment where I got injured and it was like right after a big tournament, so we weren't gonna train for a couple weeks. We were just gonna like go to the gym. It was nothing. We didn't really had a goal next. We always have like this little break from one competition and then to start thinking about your next goals and then start training. And I remember for a month after that competition, me and my parents, we didn't speak much. I didn't know if because they didn't want to show anything to me or they just didn't want to see how I was doing it because like they were so far away from me. And now looking, I think like it was meant to happen, like this whole injury thing, just because I don't think back then I was doing what was right to do with my family in terms of communication. I think we weren't communicating as much, and that whole injury, I think like he brought us back together.
Yeah.
So that's why like even like I remember you asking me a lot of times like, oh, do you miss your parents or you miss your dad or your mom? And I remember saying when I was young, like I don't miss them as much. But now I remember like now the person that I am today, like
when
it's
I
hard
ask you,
for me.
you always say that
It's
you miss
hard
them a
for me
lot.
to stay 2-3 months away from them. I have to somehow be in contact, and we talk every day. And I even spoke with you a couple weeks ago about that, about wanting to have my family come over maybe for a camp or just having my dad with me during the whole camp. And going back and forth, maybe I'll go to Brazil and spend a week with them. Maybe they'll come all together back over here. It's something that it's important for me in my life. And for what I am and what I want to be, I want to always have this image of like having a strong family and a family that cares about each other. And that's what I'm trying to build up now. And I think it fixed. And that injury really helped me with that. It helped me with getting closer to my family. I felt like a lot of things I was trying to deal by myself on my own. And then understanding that when something like that happens to you, you cannot just do it by yourself. Like you can't just recover and get back to it and just be the same person that you are just by yourself. You need people helping you. You need people around you. You need people making you feel good. I think there were a lot of people helping me. But then when my dad got here, he really like gave me a lot of confidence, and I wanted to like prove him that I could do better. So like him coming here, I remember he never spoke with me about like coming back to train or to competition, going back winning and all that. He just always told me that like, he just always went there and trained. He never told me like, hey, you have to train and you have to get back because you have to go back winning, you have to go back fighting, competing. Was just always, he would go train and he would do every training session. And then I felt I had to do the same. And I remember like he would do sometimes more than me. Like he would train in the morning and then we would go work out in the afternoon and then we would go to lift weights in evening, and then we were doing all this. Like,
and he would run in the end of the day.
And then at the end of the day he would go running. And like, I remember like him being also exhausted for so many days. He would be like exhausted because he's not used to it. You know, he's a little bit older. He's not a competitor. He never lived this life. And he would be exhausted, but he would still go. And the days that, a lot of days he would tell me to rest, I would tell him to rest, but he would get up and go. And then I was like, man, like somehow it's a lesson for me. I have to, you know, if he's at this age, I think my dad is young, but like he's older than me. And I was like, if he's at this age, he never trained in his life. He never had a competitor lifestyle, and he's doing this, like he's doing it for a reason. And having him coming all the way from Brazil, I remember like, you know, the company that they run there, it's something that he needs them. You know, it's not a company that he can run by itself. So he needs them being there. But he completely like left everything and just came to show me support, you know. And then it was a good moment for me to be promoted and then see my dad get the black belt, because I think it was like a well-deserving moment. I think he's been like, I remember he was a brown belt for the longest time, but like if you count the amount of trainings that he did when he was here for like 4 months to the amount of training that he did was more than he ever did. And I think not just getting promoted and training, but he really brought everyone together.
I think the black belt, like to me, the black belt needs to be something special that comes in a special moment, because it's basically like the last belt is like a reward of like years of experience that you go through. And for him, like just getting the black belt and not training much or not doing much was just like, just because you spent like a couple years in the brown belt, I'm tying you a black belt. That would not be as special as it was. Like, I think like he got the reward for getting the black belt. He got the black belt as a reward for doing all that work for his family, for his son. And I think that was very inspiring, not just for me, but for everyone that was there. Like having a dad come all the way from Brazil and training with his son as the son recovered from a very serious injury, and being a part of every single moment was something that was inspiring. And I think that was special for him too, because like you said, I think the fact that you guys kind of got separated when you were 14 years old, and then you go through the teenager years that normally you think that you don't need your parents very much. And you kind of got not away from them. You're always in contact with them. You are always like, I was always in contact with them too. But like, it's a normal teenager thing to be kind of like trying to be like the most independent you can be. You understand? And I remember multiple times asking you like, did you talk to Dan? And you were like, I didn't talk to Dan. Or like, you miss Dan? Like you were like, like I miss them, but it's not a lot. And then whenever like all this situation happened, I think it showed you a lot how much your dad cares about you and how much your family is important to you. And it changed a lot. I think it's going through from like being a teenager to being an adult, and now you go back to appreciating family and understanding how important like every person that supports you really is. I think whenever you were like a teenager, like you just think that people are replaceable. Every teenager is basically like that. Like you go through that phase where like you're the most important person in the world, and like everyone around you is pretty much replaceable. And then as you get older, you appreciate people more. You appreciate what people do to you, like how they treat you, like what they say to you. And I think you went through that phase very close whenever you got like your brown belt.
And I remember our goal was to come like in 2019 when I got injured was in June, and our goal was to come back like by the end of the year, like just a local tournament. And we were training like I already got back training, and I got promoted. I was training hard, and I was pretty much like 100%. But like I felt that if I've done just a local tournament, I wouldn't really have proved to myself that like, I'm really back. Or I think all the work that everyone did around me, I don't think you would have been paid if it was just like winning a local tournament.
Because you know your level and you know the level of the tournament.
When I remember we were talking, and then we decided that we would go back to the first biggest tournament of the year. That was the Europeans. Like that's how I was gonna come back. That was gonna be the tournament that was gonna be the first one after pretty much 6 months without competing. And my dad decided to come to Europe because he wanted to see how it was. That was something that was very special. And I spoke with my family already that every camp that we have now for my black belt, I need to have like him around me or around us just to help, and then I think he adds a lot to me when I'm going through that phase where you're nervous, that you're gonna have a hard
I think it's like the power of like the family, right? The support that you get, and like the comfort that you get from like having people that you like around you.
And then back to the Europeans, like just like how it was for my first year as a juvenile, I felt it was for my first tournament as a brown belt. Like I think you get to a point where you start winning, and then there's a lot of pressure behind you, but then your first competition, I feel like you wanted to prove everyone, like you wanted to prove that like you're good, or you want to prove that there's a reason why people are talking about you, or there's a reason why you're expected to win, and that's how when I was in the brown belt, I remember that was a little bit of a hype behind it, but it wasn't really towards me anymore. It was like being shifted away. And then I was like, man, I really have to prove, not really just for the media, but I wanted to prove for my surrounders that I could do. And then like that all and everything that they did it for me, I was gonna somehow pay it back. And then that's why I felt I could have paid it back, by having a great performance and then bring back a goal for them and show them that, and pretty much be thankful for them for everything that they did it for me. So that's what I remember. On that tournament, I was really nervous. I was really nervous, like a day before, like I couldn't sleep, and it was been a long time that I didn't feel that way. Because I was pretty much in, like at the highest levels of purple belt. So I remember not getting really nervous before a competition. I was always like comfortable. But for that specific tournament, I was just nervous for the time that I stayed away from it, and that I had that pretty much like a desire, and then I had the fire that I want to prove people that all the work that we did was gonna be paid off somehow, and it was a great tournament.
Yeah, I think like talking about the Europeans, like it was the first competition for you, like first competition of the year coming back from an injury. On top of it, when you think about going to the brown belt, like you add a lot of foot attacks. So you had like that was what was going through my mind. Like it was always hard to get, like the way you fight and like the amount of pressure that you put on people, like the way your techniques work. It's really hard to get you in like any kind of like foot lock or leg lock. But like knowing that you came from an injury that was like a knee injury, and how bad like it was something that was like I think like in my mind the whole time was like, oh, protect your legs, because like I don't want you to get hurt again. And I remember like that you were like more nervous for the competition. I remember like the night before, like we got an Airbnb, and like the night before, like you text me, and then you were like, oh, I can't sleep. And then I told you, oh, come here. Like I was in my room, and then I told you, oh, come here. And then we started watching fights together. And then like we were watching the guys that you were going to fight the next day. And then like we were talking about how your game would fit and how you would like dominate them, because we really believed that your game would fit really well, and that you were going to be able to beat them. And then the next day you just like had like an outstanding performance. I think something that's important to talk about, that people, like fans are always like, they always try to like ask random questions, or like give like a different, like have different expectations. Like for us, our goal was always very clear. Like even like whenever you compete the open class, and like you did multiple times before in every belt, but like our goal was always to raise your level as high as possible to become a very high level, like in every belt, and build yourself for the black belt. We were always like, I remember multiple times before telling you like, if you're gonna watch like somebody, watch the guys that are winning your division, and know that that's the level that you need to beat. Like you need to beat that level. If you're able to beat that level, because that was the same thing that my professor told me when I was a purple belt. He was like, if you were watching somebody and you're trying to pass that person's level, don't watch the purple belt or the brown belt. You can watch these guys and try to see how your game is gonna fit and how you're gonna beat them, like study what they do. But whenever you were trying to see the level and try to compare to yourself to pass the level, you watch the black belt. And I always told you, like since like juvenile, I always told you like you watch the black belts and you watch that level, because that's the level that you're gonna have to beat.
Yeah, I think that's why I improved as much as I did in every belt, because that was always our goal. Like even then, I felt like there was a lot of times where I was the highest. Pretty much I was, let's say, the best in that division. but I was still looking for more improvements because I felt that like I could have do better. Like I remember like as a brown belt going to the tournaments, already feeling like that I could hang in there with the black belts. And then now my goal is to do better and to really get to the point where to get to like the top 3 of the division. I need to be in the top 3, and then I know that once I do that, I need to be I gotta be the top 1. And then adding these goals through like all my belts was very important, and having pretty much someone like you as a like mentor and guiding me was something that it never made me just like relax. I never really relaxed at any belt thinking that like I was already good enough. Because it's very easy to do that, especially when there's like media behind you, there's people talking about you every time. It's very easy for you to just sit down and be like, all right, I guess
I'm very good.
I'm very good and I have nothing to work on. I just gotta compete. And I saw this happening with people that like train with us. I saw this happening with other people that competed in the tournaments where they do really good in one tournament or in a couple tournaments, all of a sudden they just can't win anymore. And I think that's what happens. They either lose motivation or they don't have someone guiding them, or maybe they're just not good listeners to. I think you need to be humble to the point where you recognize your level. Like I've always people always told me that I was good, but I need to pretty much be humble and listen to the ones that say, hey, you're not good enough. Like you could have done better, and then use that as a motivation and be a good listener and do what you have to do. And I had always good examples in the academy and in the competition, and the jiu-jitsu world it's very small, so it's very, you can see, you know, a lot of people's name and all of a sudden just disappears. You know? And then there's people that you don't know and all of a sudden they shine in a tournament. But then they do a really good job in the tournament and then they disappear again. And
this is something that I want to talk about whenever we get to black belt. Like the brown belt, like I think what happened with all the pandemic stuff was also something that helped us a lot, to be honest. Like of course, like business wise and like it's bad. It was bad for everybody. So like whenever you think about like the pandemic and stuff, if you think about the academy, it was bad. Just like it was for anybody that has like an academy. So, but I think like we stayed together, and like I trained with you pretty much like every day in the whenever that was happening, and we were not able to train like in the group. And I remember like multiple times like having the opportunity to be there in a smaller group and telling you stuff that also helped us like to make the connection even stronger. And like I think you learn a lot and you became even better whenever that happened. I remember our approach. You didn't even compete a lot in the brown belt. You did like two competitions, I think, right? Like before COVID.
I did like 2 or 3. Like this.
So you did like only a couple competitions, but then I remember like we got so confident in your level after like 3-4 months of the lockdown that I remember our approach when you came back to compete these last competitions was totally different. Like we were like, we know you're gonna win.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, like just try to show your jiu-jitsu, your techniques. Pretty much what we did in the blue belt. In the blue belt, like we did now in the brown belt, which is amazing because like if you get to that level of confidence and that level, you're above everyone in your division in the brown belt, it means that you are in the black belt and you belong to the black belt. So that's why like people in the tournament, like people were talking about like how are they gonna do worlds or not? Are they gonna have the event? I spoke with like some people from IBJJF and they were, we have not decided yet. And then I was like, in my mind, I knew you were going to compete. I knew you were going to win. And then in my mind, it was, I have 2 options. One, I wait for him to become a world champion in the brown belt, that I know it's gonna happen, or I promote him now, and we use this last 2-3 months for him to adapt to the black belt and make it more natural for him whenever he starts competing. in the black belt and maybe try to get some matchups against people in the black belt now. And that was my decision. Like, there was no doubt and there was no need to win more competitions in the brown belt to know that you belong to the black belt division. And I think this belt, like, I was so confident giving it, and I had zero doubts. Was not even like, I didn't even have to like be like thinking too much. I was like, I have two options, easy to decide, and like I went there and I promoted you to black. I think like in the brown belt, you had like a fantastic like journey in the brown belt division. You improved a lot. You just kept improving. I felt like you were better every competition. Like since like your juvenile days, like every competition you're better. You're just like improving, and you're fixing a lot of stuff in the academy. For people that don't know you and don't see you, people that know you from the academy and closely, like they know what you do, the kind of work that you do. But like for people that don't see you, they only see a person that started young, that has been winning, that has somebody that has a lot of experience and a lot of media behind, that is pushing you to become famous and to win competitions, and they see everything working. So in their mind, they might think, oh, it's an easy process. You start young, you have someone that is good and knows what they're doing, and you just keep training. But they don't see the adversities that go along the way. They don't see the kind of work that you do on the side that is so important, that will empower you as a black belt and to become successful. And I think like that's why the main reason I wanted to have this conversation with you was so people don't see you just as a regular athlete, like a guy that will become a black belt world champion at some point. I don't know if it's going to be first year or second year or how long it's going to take, but I know you know that you're going to become a black belt world champion. And there is much more than that being built. And I think that's what's special about it. That's what that's where our work is really focused. And like, I think the results in the competition is just like, I think is it's just something on the side, you know, like that will for sure like be special in the end. But I think the transformation that I went through from being a little kid from Brazil that came at 14 years old to become a real professional athlete and someone that not only can win competitions, but can work with Jiu Jitsu and become a leader inside of the Jiu Jitsu community. I think it's important. Something that I always told you since the beginning, it's for you to focus on becoming a leader, because whenever you have leadership skills, you have so much more room to work, and you're so much more valuable to any company, to anywhere you go. And I always focus that a lot on you, because I felt that my professor once, I remember like my professor telling me that, like I was 15, blue belt, and I would run the class whenever he was not there. And then we would have a lot of brown belts and black belts, and I would be not embarrassed or anything, but I would be like kind of feeling like I was disrespecting them, because I was the blue belt, 15 years old, and running the class like with like brown belts and black belts on the mat. And I remember one day I came to my professor and I said, look, like, are you sure you don't want like them to teach? Like, I think they're gonna get upset because like I'm younger and I'm a blue belt. And of course, like my level was higher. Like I would beat them in sparring, because like the brown belts and black belts that we had were not professional athletes at that time whenever I was blue belt. But I remember my professor saying, you have a skill that they don't have, and they have to understand that. He said, like, you have leadership skills, like you know how to run the class, you know how to engage the group, you know how to talk to the group, and they don't have that. And then I said, but like they're like black belts, like that will be bad. And then he was like, no, it doesn't matter. He said, like, in the end of the day, it's all about leadership. If they don't have leadership skills, like they are not able to command the group. And then I kept that with me because it was something that bothered me at that time. And like it took me a while to understand that and see that. And was something that I saw in you whenever like we talk, and like I saw how outgoing you were at a young age and how you would be able to communicate really well. And then since there, like I always told you, like you need to become a leader. You need to become a leader. You need to have leadership skills. And we have meetings. Like I have meetings with young champions in the academy, and we always talk about it. Like I bring up like this to everyone. And you have that. You have that. You develop that through the years today. Like for people that don't know, it's important for them to understand. Like you're not just a competitor, you are one of the leaders inside of the academy. Mm-hmm. And from going, I think coming from like a 14 years old that went through the programs in the academy to become one of the main people in the academy, especially in a large academy like AOJ that has so many good people, so many like higher ranks, like it's something special. It's something that takes a lot of work. It's not everybody that will have the skill to do that. It's not everybody that will have the opportunity to do that because like it takes a lot. And I think that's one of the things I'm most proud about whenever I think about the work that we have done together. Like you became a very strong figure that is just right there next to me, Rafa, and like the other people that are leaders inside of the academy. And I think this is something that will allowed you to make money in Jiu-Jitsu, make a living, make it opportunities. Like I see a problem that I see in the Jiu-Jitsu community, and I always told you that I didn't want that to happen to you, is the person become a champion, win gold medals, and they have no opportunities to work with Jiu-Jitsu, to use that. So like it's a lot of work to get a piece of metal that has a lot of emotions in that piece of metal, but in the end of the day, that piece of metal will not unlock any door or open opportunities.
Yeah, I see a lot of times people they complain like, oh, but Jiu-Jitsu, we just don't make money because we're not in the Olympics.
Yeah.
We have to be in the Olympics, but you see judo Olympic champions that they cannot make a living out of this the same sport that they live in, and I think not all that you mentioned, like it's very good for us to be talking about. And another thing that I feel it happened, I don't know if it's just my point of view, but I felt like we kind of changed a little bit the sport in some ways. Like I remember when I felt like my year of juvenile was the year that it shined the juvenile division. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that it is because of me, but I do think that we have a big part of it.
Yeah, or like work together, like attract attention.
Before there was nobody would talk about the juveniles. Mm-hmm. And then everyone starts to talk about juveniles, and it starts to be a division that everyone starts to look. Mm-hmm. Because before it was just black belts, everyone just looked at the black belts. And then it got to a point where everyone started to think about like, oh, like the sport's not this, like this is nothing. We have to look up at the black belts. And then now when we went through the color belts, look how many people would look through the color belts. Yeah. People today in days, they have sponsorship as a blue belt, purple, brown. If they have the right work ethic and they know how to work with Jiu-Jitsu, they're already making money at that particular belt. And there's something that, if you look at it, 20 years ago, that was never going to happen, just because the evolution of the sport. And I do think that the media and our work and the way how we did it, it was something that you really added up a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not. I don't think it's just we cannot take full credibility for that. But yes, we do own a big part of this whole, just everything that's been happening today with the juveniles division, the collar belts. I still see people would tag me in the Instagram or just in the social media talking about how much it changed after like I joined the collar belt, or other guys also are in the collar belts, and before nobody would mention that. Yeah. And today they mention that, and it makes me feel happy about it, because like all the work that we did, I think it's like pretty much showing it. And I spoke and I made a post about this right after Pan Am's. Before, I would always think that for us to shine and the academy to shine, we had to have like a large group. It was always something that I felt like, oh, we need to have, the more people we have, the better we'll be, the more results we're gonna get. But now if you stop to see it, our group is actually small than what it was before. But we just make a lot more noise everywhere that we pretty much go to compete. Everyone's been always talking about it, and it is something that he has to give you credits for that. I think I was talking to you and I was thanking you for everything you do for us. But it just goes to show you that when we have a team, like I don't think we ever been like a team like we are now. We were just like, I felt like a group of competitors before. And like we had different goals. Now we're like a team. And it just made not just the competition better and it raised our level, but also inside the academy. We'll work together. We work better now, and like we pretty much have the same goals. Sometimes I felt like before I would have, like I have a goal of being a black belt champion, I would be working with someone that doesn't have the same goals, the same desire that I do. So like maybe the effort wasn't the same. So as we started to improve on, on our friendships and becoming like a real team, it helped a lot on the academy. And I think going through this whole COVID time was something that was very hard. And he went to show us how strong we are when we have a team together. There was not a lot of people, but everyone, they helped the way they could, have the gym.
I think when people think about us, I don't know why, but they think about us as a huge team.
Yeah.
And it's not like we are one single academy. It's a big academy, yes, but it's one single location. And whenever you see how much influence we have in the Jiu-Jitsu community and how much attention we get for the work that we do, and you see that we are one single academy, I think it's like I feel very proud about that because
you see all the teams, it's like 100 academies.
Yeah, we're competing with people that have teams that are like so many academies from everywhere. So that, of course, it's easier to collect talents from everywhere whenever you have like 50 academies, 60 academies, 100 academies. But like one single academy making that much noise and like showing a lot of work is something special. It's good work being done. And for me, like something that happened to me at this last, whenever I promoted you to black belt, I remember I promoted you to black belt, and then I was going up the stairs, and like one professor that's like also a world champion and a very good professor, he came up to me and said like, can I ask you a question? And then I was, yeah, like he said like, what do you think like makes like you guys like you have like people that are now like they are still like in your academy, you don't see that you guys are always together, like what makes it special? And then like I remember like I had to think about like a second, because like of course like people come and go everywhere, like in our academy is not different, like we had people coming and leaving and stuff, but I feel like we have a very united team that it's consistent. I think this is the right word to say. It's very consistent with the work. And I think really a big part of it, it's or work with people that at young age. So we start with the kids program, and that becomes a juvenile, that becomes the adult, and goes all the way to black. And now people are seeing you guys in the black belt, but like we were doing this work in the juvenile, like you said, and we were already making this much noise. And I just think like to become like very influential in someone's life, I think you need to know them for a long time. You need to build a story with the person, and you need to build memories with the person. You need to create a relationship with the person.
And even then you get different personalities. Like we're a small team, but we're very together, but like everyone's has
so
such
different.
A different,
I think in the end it's like a family. if you're with the person for a long time and you know them since they're young, you learn how to deal with their difference and like their opinions and the way they are. You learn to respect what you don't agree with. And I think it's much easier whenever you get someone from, we had many opportunities before to get people that were already black belt world champions, or people that were champions in the brown belt moving to our academy. And a lot of times, like, we told the person, I don't think this is the right fit for you, because like I didn't feel that we would build the same kind of
like
connection and work together. I never wanted a student to go to the academy and see me as a teammate. So I never wanted that. I never had the desire to have a person that's a world champion inside of the academy. That for sure would attract attention, because a world champion always attracts attention from the media. But like, I never had the desire of having the person there to treat me as a training partner.
Yeah.
I was not part of building them as an athlete. So they would never have the same amount of respect that the students that are there have. So it's very different. Like, I think it's very different being the professor that brought the student up and taught the way, than being the person that basically said, look, like, this is my house, you can come here and be a part of it. You know, the respect is totally different. I think the story that you build with the person is totally different. Of course, there's an exception everywhere. Like, maybe like you met the person, he's already a black belt, and you guys build like a great connection and work it out. But most of the time, like, the person that comes in as a black belt or coming in as a champion already, they leave whenever they have a better opportunity or they have like something better, because like, you're just part of the process for them to get better opportunities.
I think more important than like just opportunities or like money that you make is really the friendships and the people that you meet on your life. So I think we are just as strong as we are, and I don't think there's ever any money that will buy it, or just because you're a world champion that people get close to you. I think people get close to you because of the work that you put in. Like, and we were just talking about this yesterday too, of like how much we each sacrifice for whatever we wanted to make it happen. So like, we want, like, I see, like, I don't think, to be honest, I don't think you have to be at the academy every day. I think it's important that you're there, but I don't think you have to be there. Just like in your personal life, you don't have to. But like, just seeing you there every day, it motivates me to do my best to be there. And then I'm sure that it motivates a lot of people, and the work and the way how you help us, it just, it really motivates, because I think it's easy to have motivation when you have nothing. But what about when you already accomplish a big part of it? Then what do you motivate on? And then what, like, does that really drives you still? And like, seeing you win world titles and accomplish whatever, all the goals that you had, to now, okay, I already did what I had to do during the competitions, now I need to add different goals. And then your goal was the academy. And then for part of your life, your goal was really the program, like the competition training. And then you see, like, you shift that, we became more professional. Now we're the competition training and the academy. And then we're working all together on building a strong program for the next people that are coming up. And then also at the same time, not forgetting that we're just joining the highest level. So it's so much that if we stop to sit down and mention, it would just like take hours to mention everything. But you really, everything that it's been happening, I believe that it's from something that we did in the past that's just being paid off now.
Yeah.
I think even me, like the position that I am in the academy, I think it's because, I don't think just because I have just a strong relationship with you, it just put me there. I believe that I put in the work to be there, and I showed you that you could trust me. And there was a lot of times too that I felt like, oh, how come I haven't got that position yet? But I saw that I wasn't ready for that yet. Maybe it's something, not even on my teaching, but on my personal life, or maybe on my character or my personality that I had to change. And it just, everything is just, it almost feels like it's meant to happen, and it fits just perfect to your life. And that's what's been happening.
Okay, for us to end, like, what do you think, like, let's talk just about the goals for for the black belt now, I'm gonna talk to you like what I see, and then you say what like your goals are, and then like let's try to name like a couple people that if you could choose to have like the first matches with, like who you wanted to compete against in the black belt. So like I always told you like that the same way that you're saying, like whenever you get good people around you, you try to keep them for as long as you can around, because like these are the people that make life special. You know, like if you have good people, people that you like, people that like you, I think that you try to avoid letting them go and you keep them around as much as possible. And I have been saying that. I'm crystal clear with you like every time. That's why I always made sure you build a strong leadership like skill in the academy. I always told you like I want you to one day replace what I do, and like you're gonna be the person that will like whenever like I'm not able to do or I don't want to do anymore like the work that I've been doing, like I want a strong leader, someone that share the same ideas that I share, to keep the work, to keep like what I believe is the right thing to do alive, and keeps doing that kind of work. And for sure, like I think like whenever you build that kind of like skill and you become that viable in any company or in any place, it opens up opportunities for money, for like anything. It's like there's no limits for that. So I think like for you, like that's what I wish. That's what I wish like will happen, and that's what I try to work for. I don't think there is like a need of like, of course, like there is a possibility always like, you can go open like a new academy and stuff. But I think like I always thought about you like we working together and like building like a strong position like year after year for you to basically like take over what I do and like become like one like a main leader inside of the academy. What do you see like in the future? Like what, like I know we talk about this all the time. Like it's not something that is it's new for me or like for you. Like, but like for people to know like what your dream like. Whenever you think about the future, like what you think about?
Competition-wise or just?
No,
just personal life?
Personal life, like where like to go and stuff.
I think like when I was maybe like blue or purple, I've always thought that you would have to open up your own business in order for you to succeed or to make money out of it. But I think the work that I'm doing at the AOJ right now, and then the way how you're helping me, I don't think it makes sense for me to just all of a sudden leave and try to open my thing. And I've seen people, I have good examples of people that did it. It worked, but I think it's just harder. It's like, for example, you're going through college for something that you want to work with, and when you get out of college, you completely switch. You want to do something else. Like, I'm investing my time for me to train and become a great athlete, and I'm also investing time in my work for my future. So I see myself working together, or us working together, and then I think the next step would be slowly like raising the level and the position that I'm in the gym, and I think that's been always my goal. And as soon as like AOJ, I truly believe that AOJ is gonna be multiple academies in the near future. In the next, we always spoke about like the next 5 years, but in the next 10 years, I do see AOJ with at least 3 academies. Like we have 1 now, and then for sure, I think it's gonna be like 2 more with the work that we have been doing. And then I think the COVID thing, it did slow us down a little bit. Yeah. But I think it also made us be more professional in areas that we had to be. Yeah. You know, I think it cleared out what he had to be cleared out, and we fixed little things that we had to, because in the beginning of the year, I remember us talking a lot about opening up a new gym. But maybe maybe it was meant to happen and not open up. You know, maybe if you guys did open up, it would just be very stressful. You know, and then with this whole COVID thing, it made us slow down a little bit and really focus on the gym. Now, if you see the AOJ now it's just running like perfect. You know, the class are being growing and we're getting. Everyone is training and getting it back and, you know, following everything that they need to follow.
I think it's important for us to share also the idea of like what we see for the academy itself. Like today, like AOJ is not just the academy. Today it's a brand that has like multiple like different like products in that brand. Like we have the website that has like online classes that has like thousands of members. We have products, like we have like gis and like people from all over the world, like they buy the gis from us, not just people from the academy. So it became, slowly it became a brand. And the academy is one of the products for that brand. And like you said, like we want to open more. And our goal was never to open fast. I think we had multiple opportunities to do that. Like we had multiple investors that wanted to go there and open the academy. We never thought was the right time to do. And our goal is to be something premium, different in a sense where it's special. So for me, like I remember like talking to Pat one day, whenever like the person asked, one like particular person, we had an offer from like a billionaire to be an investor and help to grow the academy, and I'm friends with the person. Like I talked to the person and stuff, and the person came to me and like said like, if you guys are looking for investors, like we can open like 10 academies in the next 10 years. Like he made a plan, like and I remember like bringing up to Pat, and Pat said, look, like I'm gonna tell you my vision and the way I see the brand and the way I see you guys working. And you guys are young, you guys have something that's very special, and treated like, he gave me a good example that I like to think about it. He said, look, like you can make a good amount of money really fast, but you lose your brand, because you're not gonna have the same quality for 10 academies in 10 years. You're not gonna have the same quality. So what's gonna happen, it's gonna lower the quality and it's gonna make the brand less special. He said, what you guys are doing, you're growing from the inside. You have something that's special. You're creating people that have the same work ethic, you're multiplying your vision into people's mind. And these people, they are young, they're growing, and they're gonna become capable of doing exactly the same thing that you're doing. And if you work that way, you can open multiple academies and they all are gonna be special, because all the people that lead these academies are gonna share the same mindset, same lifestyle, the same ideas that you have. And then he gave me this example of like, he said, imagine like a tiny sushi place. And there's a chef that it's very good and very special, and like people make a line to go to that place. And then he said that people don't mind waiting 30 minutes, 1 hour to eat, because they really want to eat that food from that person, because it's special. It's like there's an expectation to be there. There is like a lot going on. Like it's like almost like an event to be there. And that you see multiple times like that in restaurants and stuff. And I said, imagine a person comes and say, look, in the next 3 years, we're gonna open 30 of this same restaurant. He said, they will make money, yes. Because if you already have a brand and like there's like multiple, like you're gonna make money, but will not be as special. So we decided to keep it special. We decided to go slow and grow from the inside, and make very location that we open very unique. I think especially because the fact that we are very young, and this is something that we have been working since I was a little kid. So like I don't want to somehow destroy what I I think I worked so hard for. And like today, it's very special.
I think I do see that happening, opening up different locations, and I think I'm going to be running one of the locations and trying to do a good work and continue to help you guys to open more locations and making it unique. And I think each one of us has an important role to bring it to the company, you know,
Yeah.
and then to the business. I think it's like we talk about this all the time, you know. I think people from the outside just think that it's you and your brother, and it is a big part of it for sure. But there's so many people behind it that make it
special.
I think
Yes.
just like how you mentioned, I think Pat is very important. Like giving this type of advices, it made more clear for you guys what you guys gonna do in the future.
And I think that's why like it's not like a Mendes Brothers Academy. It's Art of Jiu Jitsu. It's a brand, and like whenever you have something.
I think you spoke to me that in the beginning people wanted to make like a Mendes bro, like
Yeah,
Mendes
like,
Brothers.
Whenever
Jiu-Jitsu.
you get your black belt and you open your own academy, you think that your name is the best idea to put there because it's gonna be popular. But like Pat helped a lot with that too. It's like in the end, like it's not just me and my brother. We are a big piece of it, yes. And but nowadays it's like so many people that work to get the brand, the academy, the website, like the merchandise, everything like to be where it is. It's like unfair to be if it was called like the Mendes Brothers Academy, you know. And like just to finish, like try to point like 3 people. I'll tell you first, like 3 people that I really want to see you compete against, and I'm gonna tell you why. And then probably like you're gonna face them in the future, and we're gonna be able to see this video and like try to like analyze that. I wanted you to compete against Gabriel Arges first, as fast as possible. I do think you have the right game to beat him. You have a very strong pass that puts pressure forward with strong connections, and I think that's where he makes mistakes. So I think he's the current world champion, and I think this matchup would be a good way for you to see your level in the division. Another matchup that I wanted to see, and I think like it's good too, and I think I would want you to fight Levi. I don't think he's like he has the credentials to be he's not the champion yet, and he doesn't have like I think he's still trying to figure out his way to the top. He has like a little bit more time than you like in the belt. He was always 1 belt ahead. But another person that I truly believe like your game would outshine his game, and they're both good competitors. Like don't take me wrong. Like I think like that's really why I wanted you to compete against them. I do think they are both like world-class athletes, but I wanted to see your style against their style. And the third person, like I wanted to see you competing against Izaki. I think he was a world champion. He's always at the top of the division as well, and is a completely different style than the other 2. I think would be a style that is a little bit more scrappy and a little bit more challenging for you, because like I don't think like he's as technical as the other guys, and like the technique is not as sharp and consistent. But I think he brings out a different component that you need to have in the black belt, that is that persistence to win in the scrambles. And I think you do that very well as well. And like I think like these 3 guys are all 3 world class, and like I really want to see you competing against these 3 people. Mm-hmm. If you could pick 3 people, who would you pick?
I think for sure Gabriel Arges. I think just he current I think whole for sure is the world champion. He won last year, and I think just because right now, from all the guys in my division, he's the one that holds the most title. Like he holds, I think, like 3 black belt world titles, and then he doesn't hold
right now. Right?
Yeah,
he doesn't have
the record is Marcelo Garcia.
Yeah,
he won 5, and I think that's what I aim for. I think try to match something like that, like to have a good status from like after I'm done with competing, like have multiple world titles and a black belt, and I think I'm young to that point where I have
time
to do it. Yeah, and I know it's just a matter of time and continue to do what I'm doing to get to that. For sure, Gabriel Arges, I do think my game fits a lot to his game. So I think I would be able to do a good job with passing. Mm-hmm. And the second one, Isaac, you mentioned, it's someone that I want to compete. There is, I think the Isaac would be actually maybe like a harder match, just because I would have to almost like go out of my comfort zone to like be able to beat him. And I think that's what's gonna happen. I don't think it's out of my comfort zone, but I'm just gonna have to play a different game that I usually people see me like playing. And to be honest, the match, and more the match fight. With both of them, I think I think I need to get that confidence where I can fight 10 minutes and applying my pressure and continue using my techniques. I think that's it's a big thing for someone that's just joining the black belt, is to actually fit into that division first.
See where you're at.
And see where you're at. And second, apply pretty much your pace. And I think I did a good job with that in all the other belts. I was always young in the belts, and I was always pretty much the upcoming guy. So I was able to apply that. Like for a purple belt, I was able to apply that for a brown belt. And I think it will be no difference a black belt. And the third person, I think Levi, it's someone that is interesting to compete against. I actually see the other guys a little bit more challenging, but I think Levi would be a good match I would say, with the media behind it.
I think it would be like
we both have a good like hype behind it. Us. He's won the color belts as well. He's won a couple tournaments of black belt. I won in the color belts. I'm just joining the black belt. So I think it's a good matchup of pretty much like the new generation, I would say. And I do think that these names will be always like I mentioned before. My goal is to be in the top 3 and then top 1 and then win multiple world titles. And for sure, those names will be like there, and I would have to face it.
For sure, you're gonna fight them multiple times.
Yeah. Especially because I think Isaac and Gabriel Arges, I think they fought each other like 8 times or something like this, and in the color belts and in the black belt. So for sure, we'll have multiple fights with all those 3 names.
Yeah, I think like this conversation was good for people to see a little bit more of your personality and the work that you do, like that's not shown in competitions. Like I really want to do that more often. Like whenever like we have like you go there and you compete, we come back and then we talk about the results. I think like it's a really good opportunity for you to show who you really are and like to show your personality and build like your fans and show people that you're not just like a very good athlete, but you're a very smart professional, and I think like you have a great future ahead. This is just the beginning. Okay, thank you.